right, we're going to continue with some applications using angle properties. So we're going to remember some of our formulas from geometry for solving for missing angles. And then we're going to build on that piece that we learned yesterday where we plugged in numbers for every single variable except one. Well, now what we're going to do is we're going to have a formula, and we're going to solve for just one of those variables. And so, but we're going to do it without plugging in numbers. So it's kind of building on both of those pieces. Okay, so here we go. All right, you can do it. Yay, you can do it. All right. When you are using a formula to solve an pi problem, just like last night, we're going to draw and label the picture. Go ahead and figure out which formula to use. We're going to be talking angles today, so we got to remember what a couple of those formulas are. Again, every formula you need is in the front or the back cover of the book. Plug in and solve. All right, you can do it. Don't give up. Don't give up. Please don't give up. Keep trying, all right? Keep trying. Okay, reminder from geometry what a vertical angle is. Whenever you take two lines and you draw them together like I did here, okay, four angles are formed, okay? The opposite angles are called vertical angles, okay? So angle C and angle D are vertical angles or opposites. Angle A and angle B are vertical angles or opposites, okay? The cool thing about these vertical angles is that if you know the value of one, you know the value of the other. They are equal. So angle C has to be the same as angle D. Angle A has to be the same value as angle B. And remember my saying from geometry, if two things are equal, set them equal to each other, because then you're going to have variables that you can solve for, all right? If two things are equal, set them equal. One thing goes on the left of the equal sign, the other thing goes on the right of the equal sign. Okay. The other term we have to remember is a linear pair. Linear pair. And again, these are formed when two lines are drawn and intersect, but these are the adjacent angles, or the side by side, okay? They sit next to each other, okay? And their opposite rays make a straight line, okay? So notice how C and B sit next to each other, okay? Their opposite rays make a straight line. B and D sit next to each other. Their opposite rays make a straight line. A and D sit next to each other. Their opposite rays make a straight line. A and C sit next to each other. Their opposite rays make a straight line. Okay? Look over here. You have E and F. They sit next to each other, and their opposite rays make a straight line. Now watch what would happen if I did this. Okay, and call this G and H. Okay? G and H sit next to each other, but do their opposite rays make a straight line? No. They don't have opposite rays. Then this is not a linear pair. Okay? Now, the next beautiful thing about linear pairs is that those adjacent angles add up to equal 180. You like how I went over and over that? I'm thinking that I'm making a point here. I cracked myself up. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to add these angles together. Sum means add. Add the two angles together and then set it equal to 180 so that you can solve for your variable. So you're going to have, over here, you're going to have E plus F equals 180. Here you're going to have C plus B equals 180. You're going to have B plus D equals 180. You're going to have D plus A equals 180. Sorry, that getting messy. But as you can see how this is working, okay? All right, so let's try this technique. Okay, find the measure of each marked angle. Whatever they give you in your book, I want you to draw that picture. Draw the picture. Label it. Draw the picture, okay? Now, determine the formula you're going to use. In this case, are we talking about vertical angles, or are we talking about linear pairs? Well, we're talking about vertical angles because these are opposite each other. So vertical angles have to equal each other, okay? So this is the set equal. So here's my formula. It is 4x plus 19 has to equal 6x minus 5. So now we're going to solve. I'm going to move my x's to the right. So I get 19 is equal to 2x minus 5 by subtracting 4 from each side. And then I'm going to add 5. And I get 24 is equal to 2x. X is equal to 12 when I divide by 2. All right? Okay, so now I had to find the value of each angle. And they better be the same when I get done with it. All right? So I'm going to plug in 12 for x. So 4 times 12 plus 19. 4 times 12 is 48. Plus 19, that gives me 67 degrees are the two angles. So if this was A and B, angle A is equal to 67 degrees. Angle B is equal to 67 degrees. Make sure that works in both of them. We got x to equal 12. So we would want to check our other one is 6 times 12 minus 5. Well, 6 times 12, that's 72 minus 5 is equal to 67. So we got it. Okay? All right. So both of them are 67 degrees. That's good because we set them equal to each other, right? All right. Find the measure of each marked angle. Let's call this one angle B and angle C. Okay? All right. Draw the picture. Draw the pictures that they give you. Draw the pictures. I'm going to be looking that you're drawing the pictures tomorrow. Okay? So are these vertical angles or are these a linear pair? These are a linear pair. What do we know about linear pairs? Angle B plus angle C has to equal 180 degrees. So let's plug in and solve. Angle B is 3x minus 30 plus angle C is 4x, and when I add them together they better equal 180 degrees. I'm going to combine my x's and I get 7x minus 30 is equal to 180. I'm going to add 30 and I get 7x is equal to 210, so x is equal to 30 degrees. Now I have to find the value of each angle by plugging x equals 30 into my equations, all right? So I have 3x minus 30. Well, 3 times 30 is equal to 90 minus 30, that's 60. And then 4x is going to be 4 times 30, so that's equal to 120. So angle B is equal to 60 degrees. Angle C is equal to 120 degrees. And if I add them together, 60 plus 120, that gives me 180. So it works. All right? Okay. Now I'm going to change gears a little bit. We're going to do what's called solving literal equations. And literal just means that there's just a whole bunch of letters in there. Okay? So last night we talked about plugging in numbers for every single letter except one and then solving. Well, now we don't have any numbers to plug in, but we're going to use the exact same techniques, and we're going to solve and isolate the one variable that they ask us to. All right? What you want to do is whatever one they ask you to solve for, you'll be given a formula, and they'll say, solve for such and such a letter, a specified letter. That's the only one that you treat just as if it were a variable. All the other variables, you're going to treat them just like they're numbers. They're just like numbers, all right? The goal is to get that specified variable all alone with a coefficient of 1 on one side of the equal sign. That's like solve for that variable. That's exactly what that means. And you're going to use the same technique for solving any linear equation. So there's a lot of stuff that you already know what to do. It's just going to feel a little bit different. Remember, the key to success is treat all other letters just like they're numbers. When I say all other, what I'm talking about are the ones that aren't the specified variable. Okay? All right, let's solve this literal equation. Solve the equation A equals LW. Solve it for W. So I want you to write that original formula down. All right? Do what they ask. Write that formula down, okay? Make a note of what you're solving for, okay? Now, the only letter here that's actually a variable is W. Everything else we treat just like numbers, all right? So I need to get rid of that L that's being multiplied by the W. How do I undo multiplication? I do division. So I'm going to divide both sides by L. This is going to cancel, and I'm left with A over L. So W is equal to A over L. And you're done. You've solved for W. W is all alone. It has a coefficient of 1, and you're done. You could have written it like this, too. W equals A over L. All right, let's try this next one. Solve I equals PRT. That's P times R times T. Remember what's implied when you just have a slew of letters stacked up against each other. That's multiplication in the middle there. All right? So I write down my original formula. I equals PRT. Notice that I'm asked to solve for T, so that's why I put it in red. Okay? Now, P and R are just numbers. How do I undo multiplication? By a number, I divide by that number. What's that number called? PR. If I divide one side by PR, I'm going to divide the other side by PR. Okay? Over here, the P's cancel, the R's cancel. That's exactly why I did it. And over here, I have I divided by PR is equal to T. This is actually an equation for interest. Interest earned is equal to the principal times the rate times the time. Okay? Let's try and solve this literal equation. Okay? We have P equals 2L plus 2W, and we're solving it for W. Solving for W. So the first thing I want you to do is write that formula down. Okay? Now, I want to get rid of this term at 2L. It's being added to 2W. So how do I undo addition? I subtract. So I'm going to subtract 2L from both sides. Subtract 2L. All right? Over here I have P minus 2L. I don't have negative P2L because P and 2L are not like things. Okay? They both are numbers, but they're not like numbers in this case. Okay? And then I'm left with just a positive 2W over here. So I subtracted 2L from both sides. BS is both sides. We're reclaiming this, all right? Now what do? I have this P minus 2L is equal to 2W. Make sure you understand why this is P minus 2L. Okay, if you don't get that, you need to ask me about that. All right. So I need a coefficient of 1 in front of that W. So how do I undo that multiplication? I do division. I do division by 2. All right. These cancel, and so I'm left with P minus 2L all over 2 is equal to W. Okay. Try number 2 on your own and hit the pause button and come back and see if you got it right. Okay, welcome back. Here we go. My first thing that I'm going to do is write my formula down that they give me. Okay. C is my only variable. C is my only variable. I'm going to highlight that. C is my own, oops, highlighter. C is my only variable. So I want to, the first thing I have to do is I have to get this whole thing by itself, right? So I'm going to subtract 32 from both sides. So I have F minus 32 is equal to 9/5 C. All right? Now I need to undo this 9/5. Remember, we can multiply by the reciprocal, okay? So I'm going to multiply both sides by 5/9. 5/9, okay? So then I get, these cancel, because that's the inverse property, okay? And I get C is equal to 5/9 times F minus 32. Hopefully you recognize that this is the formula to convert between Fahrenheit and Celsius. Fahrenheit and Celsius. This is how you take a Celsius number and convert it to Fahrenheit. This is how you take a Fahrenheit number and convert it to Celsius. All right, let's try this one. Okay, we have to solve for capital B. Okay. Whenever I see a fraction, I like to see if I can get rid of that fraction first. So because this is just being multiplied by a bunch of stuff, I'm going to multiply both sides by 2 and get rid of that fraction first. So I get 2A is equal to H times little b plus big B. That's my first step. Multiply. Oh, I did something wrong, didn't I? By 2. I want you to write your formula down. All right. Multiply by 2. Okay. Then I have this H being multiplied by this thing in the parentheses, right? Okay, so right now I'm going to treat this as a thing and this as a thing. All right. This is one thing, this is another thing. And I want to undo this multiplication by H. I want to undo the multiplication by H. So that means I'm going to divide this side by H, which means I have to divide this side by H. These cancel, which is why I did it. And I have 2A over H is equal to little b plus b. Notice how I dropped the parentheses because I've eliminated the need for them. Okay? What am I solving for? I'm solving for this big B. So that means I want to move the little b over to the other side. This is a positive little b, so I need to add the opposite or subtract. So I'm going to move this way because I'm running out of room. So I have 2A over H. I got to subtract B and I got to subtract B. Minus little b is equal to big B. Okay? And you're done. Just like that. Once you get the hang of and the feel for just treating your one variable like a letter, and everything else just you apply all the properties you've learned for like numbers and stuff, it starts to get more comfortable. All right, we're going to solve this next one, number 6. We're going to solve it for H. Okay, so I have 2 terms over here. One of those terms doesn't have anything to do with H. So I've got to move it by subtracting 2 pi r squared from both sides. Okay, the 2 pi r squared is not the same thing as s, so I can't combine them. So I have s minus 2 pi r squared equals 2 pi r h. Okay, what's my variable again? My variable is h. My variable is h. So all of these things being multiplied by h, we treat them just like a single number. It's just 2 pi r. And we're going to divide everything by 2 pi r. So that cancels, and then 2 pi r over here. So my final answer is h equals s minus 2 pi r squared all over 2 pi r. Just like that. No big deal. Okay? All right. These are the problems that we're going to do tomorrow. These are all of the vertical angle linear pairs, and then the rest are the literal equations that we need to get used to working with. So remember, in the morning or when we meet for class, it'll be, make sure you write that formula down. Make sure you put your diagram of your angles down, and we'll get through this. If you have any questions, please ask. Thanks.